Hey everyone. Sometimes I talk with my friends, most often American people. They mention a song or a band and I don't recognize it. I think to myself, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm not as well versed in the retro as I think I am. But then I realized the problem. There's an actual problem. There's an obvious answer to it and I keep forgetting it. I'm Dutch. It's a race thing. So, in the Netherlands, things were simply a little bit different when growing up in the 80s and 90s. Now, everything obviously is different for everybody. But the general gist of this whole thing still stands. It was just a different climate, different music, different trends. And I realized that I might have grown up in the country of cheese, coffee shops that don't serve coffee, and tulips. And that's exactly the fucking problem. When American people were living this, as Dutch people, we were living this. There's gonna be so much sadness in this video, so much noise, so much to explain. I think I can do this by myself. I might need some help because somebody's gonna bring up the coolness, because once I start talking about this, ooh, you guys are gonna see what I mean, so I better call in for some help. Slight disclaimer. The songs I'm going to be using in this video are actually songs I like. Throughout the years, some of this music has grown on me. This music I actually regularly listen to. And I know it should be known. Now, I'm not a historicus. I don't have all the dates, all the facts, you know. I simply grew up with this. And it's my privilege to share with you actual noise.
The 90s in the United States definitely were not like that. It was just different times, and some of the music was memorable and some of it was, you know, better off being forgotten. So some of the more trendy bands were with the pop, it was the pop music back then in the 80s. And we had New Kids on the Block, who is one of my personal favorites. It was just a typical boy band. They sang about like love, girls, more girls, and they had their dance moves and stuff. And it was just, you know, poppy music for teenage girls. You know, you went to the concerts and it was just crowds and crowds of screaming and crying teenage girls. And then there also was pop female singers such as Tiffany and Debbie Gibson, who were, I guess, labeled as mall music, because I know for sure Tiffany started off in the malls, like playing the malls with her songs. I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed that type of music also, but for me, the biggest standout in the 80s was 80s hair metal, is what we call it today. Back then it wasn't called 80s hair metal. Back then it was just called, I guess, metal. Sometimes it's labeled as glam metal. And there are bands such as Poison, Motley Crue, Warrant, Bon Jovi, things like that. So it was more sex, drugs, and rock and roll type of lyrics in their songs, and they led the lifestyle to go along with it. It was crazy, I'm sure. You can read a lot about like behind the music type of documentary stuff on the different bands. I really enjoy 80s hair metal. I think that they're really talented musicians. I think the songs are really good. They're written really well. If you want to go heavier than that, there was also in the 80s just regular metal music, I guess you want to say, that was kind of getting big on the scene, such as Metallica and Megadeth. I really enjoy that type of thrashy type music, you know, like Slayer and Anthrax were getting really big also in the 80s. And it was kind of like, you know, they would kind of make fun of the 80s hair metal bands being like, that's not real music, that's not real, you know, like heavy rock music or anything like that. So, you know, you had your different genres of music, and I enjoyed all three of them, you know? So there's definitely good things to pick from. And then if you want to go over to the 90s, it started with the grunge scene, and that kind of killed off the 80s music. And, you know, more so the 80s hair metal music was kind of like out the door because it was really, really big. And then in the 90s came in the grunge scene, such as Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Soundgarden. And I think Nirvana was the one that basically started it all off. And it was just more like grittier music, more depressing type lyrics, and, you know, more emotional, deep type of music, as opposed to like upbeat and happy and partying and girls, you know? It was just different, and it changed everything in the 90s.
Yes, well, in the Netherlands, we didn't have such class. You see, I'm metal. My style has been metal while growing up. It's not hard in the Netherlands to find metal friends, to see people who like the same music, to find groups to bond over it. There's stores, there's music, concerts. You can find metal pretty easy. In the past, you could even find it on TV. Bands like Amorphous, I discovered them like that. But alas, there was an overarching evil that ruled the Netherlands. And this shit, this noise has been plaguing my childhood, because I like some of this stuff now. But I didn't always like this. Now my brother, he was into this shit. This is why I had to listen to this noise all the time, blasting through the ceiling as his room was above mine. And that was an actual hell. Music like hardcore, rave, trance, techno, those ruled the 80s and 90s in the Netherlands. Hardcore being overabundant and my main source of hatred. I couldn't stand this, and this was the thing my brother listened to the most. Hardcore had a lot of subgenres, just like metal has, not as many, but it had a few subgenres. Happy hardcore being one of the few I could stand because it actually had some melody. I wasn't just death bass, repeatedly mind-numbing bullshit.
Wonderful days belong to the past. I don't know where to do. Try to forget and I found someone new. So I prayed on my knees to heaven above. Send me somebody please, someone to love. Let them into my story. Give me your hand, don't let me down with a heart in your hand. I found the love but it didn't last. Wonderful days belong to the past. I don't know where I stand, what I'm to do. Try to forget and I found someone new.
I've warned you guys. It's a sad deal. It's a sad deal, and it's gonna get even worse. It's gonna get so much worse. But we did have normal music, pop music, I don't know, Madonna, Michael Jackson, Alanis Morissette, the Cranberries. I'm just naming some random names here. We did have normal music, but the overarching style of everything, it's just...
And then female bands like Garbage and Alanis Morissette and Liz Phair, things like that, were just, it was more like I don't give a fuck type of attitude that was coming from women back when, like, you know, the 90s, the new stuff was coming out. So that was a definite change from the 80s. And then along with that, there was still, you know, poppy music becoming popular, like more boy bands like NSYNC and 98 Degrees and all those types of bands, Backstreet Boys. I didn't listen to that stuff.
A very popular trend was to take existing songs, usually popular songs, pop music and trendy shit, top 40, top 20 music, really famous stuff, and remix it and drain it and then pump it full with hell. Like massive bass, barely any melody, and just insane amount of industrial vibes. And this was extremely common for most of these genres, be it trance, techno, hardcore. It was very common to do this back in the day in the Netherlands, and it had some bad results, but it actually wielded some pretty good stuff as well.
But he's not me, he's not my family. In your head, there are fighting with their tongues and their bombs and their bombs and their guns. In your head, they are crying. What's in your head? In your head. Someday, what's in your head? In your head. Someday.
As I said, my brother was into this. I heard most of this stuff drumming through the fucking ceiling Saturday evening, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon. I woke up with it, I went to bed with it. I was cleaning my room and it just, this noise came pouring down, absorbing all that was good and holy and replacing it with the most vile noise.
It's a gamma.
Wasn't just the music either in America, it was the attitude, the style, the hair, the makeup, everything. So going back to the 80s, more of the pop scene, girls were wearing, it was like fluorescent colors, like hot pink and neon green and things like that. You wore scrunchies in your hair. You had your hair crimped and like your bangs teased up. The clothing as far as for the pop scene was pretty bad. You know, people pegged their pants. I don't know if you know what pegging your pants is, but look it up if you don't. That was totally a thing. The MC Hammer pants, because we had the musician MC Hammer in the 80s, and he wore these big, like, I don't even know what you call them, like parachute type pants, like huge legged pants, like in the middle, and then they kind of tapered at the bottom. We had jelly shoes. That's what girls wore, the jelly shoes. Those were terrible. They were like these ugly plastic see-through shoes, and they had like sparkles in them sometimes. So bad.
What the fuck are jelly shoes? I don't know. Looks pretty good to me.
I enjoyed the 80s metal type clothing, you know, with the hair metal. The guys, you know, teased their hair up huge, like big, like bigger than this. And they wore bright makeup, lipstick. They literally wore like female makeup. Like, example, like what I'm wearing today would be something that the men were wearing for their makeup. And they wore the spandex pants, like, you know, tight spandex pants, or these like total like tight spandexy type outfits, and leopard print or zebra print. It was just loud and over the top. Like, it was so over the top. But the more metal, you know, heavy metal type bands like Metallica, it was basically just black. They wore like tight black jeans, like tight black jeans, and just like a band t-shirt. And that was it basically for them. They didn't do the whole get up. They kind of mocked that. And then switching to the 90s, you had, like I said, the grunge scene came in, and that was plaid, you know, flannel shirts and baggier type pants that were ripped. You wore like Converse sneakers, and just kind of like you rolled out of bed type of a look, I guess. It was really just grungy. That was the cool thing to wear back then, more so for the men, I want to say, than the women. But I will say that I was a victim of the, you know, you took the flannel shirt and you tied it around your waist type of thing. That was like always big. Everything was more plain though, as far as hair and makeup. Men had long hair still, but it was just flat hanging down. It wasn't like, you know, big teased up or anything like that anymore. Women didn't wear like the bright colors. They really didn't do their hair up like they used to, you know, really high and tease it up. It was more just like toned down, more like warm, neutral colors was kind of the thing in the 90s. Let's see, as far as jewelry goes, I want to say 80s was more bigger type things, you know, like the girls wore like the big hoop earrings or big like chunky jewelry. Anything that was brightly colored was in, or like I said, leopard print or zebra print. You know, you get like printed zebra print like earrings or something like that. So all that stuff was really big.
Well, people do say everything is bigger in America. Almost everything is smaller in the Netherlands. But the trends, the clothes, the hair. I mean, when you're into metal, you've got the hair. You ain't got, and the clothes, it's like, it's kinda, basically, I don't even know how to put this shit into words.
You can run, but you can't hide the stuff. Don't do that.
Motherfucking cowboys. Bald-headed, jumpsuit-wearing, weird-ass hacking kind of dudes. And I don't mean like the cool computer hacking you see in movies like The Net or some shit, no. When I mean hacking, I mean whatever the fuck this is. And that's all there is to it. Weird ass music, weird ass styles, and it was everywhere, everywhere. Everybody had friends like this, wearing jumpsuits, being bald, even at my age, back then. My brother was into it, I had some of my friends that were into it. You went to the house and it was noise, I went to my house, it was noise. People didn't have fucking hair, they couldn't dress properly. It was bad, it was bad. Some stuff grew on me when it comes to the music. I need a good melody. So the next time, when I don't recognize something or we have a conversation, some badass rock star or anything, don't judge me. Pity me. For we had not the same art history.
I really enjoyed the 80s and the 90s. I still listen to 80s music a lot. I still see 80s bands play out. The 90s, you know, brought a lot of change in new styles of music, which I still enjoy also. You know, I like to throw on like a Pearl Jam, the 10 album. That's my favorite album by them. And it's just, you know, it's just two different types of music, and it's definitely not like anything that we have going on today.
Thank you guys for watching. Thank Midnight Owl for joining my guest star.
So thanks to RetroDeath for having me be a part of this collaboration video. I really enjoyed it. Music is a huge part of my life, so I enjoy talking about it and like reminiscing. So if you ever want to check me out, my YouTube channel is Midnight Owl.
At first I was going to do this by myself, but I was like, you know what? I need somebody of culture. Somebody that could perfectly pinpoint out the difference to their knowledge and my knowledge. There's a reason I didn't know most of this stuff, and I want to thank her for explaining it to me, for explaining it to us, so that I could show you what's wrong on my side. Thank you guys for watching. Check out Midnight Owl. I'll put her description in the video description. I mean, it is what it is. And go check her out. She does a lot of music related stuff, reaction videos to trailers, songs, and a lot of goth related stuff like fashion-y shit. And it's definitely worth to check out. Stay real.
As opposed to attitude, I want to say people in the 80s were more upbeat, and it was about partying and, you know, being like crazy and having a good time, where the 90s, I feel like people were more depressed. I don't know if that was just around my area, but that's my like outlook, I guess, on how things were. And I feel like it had to do with a great deal of amount with the music, you know? Like I said, like the 80s was more upbeat, happy, like party music, and then the 90s turned into like, I'm depressed, the world is terrible, substance abuse, and, you know, I want to kill myself.
Hardcore vibes that are on things. Hey, yeah. Hardcore vibes that are on things. Hey.
This one is dedicated to all the ravers in the nation.
Hardcore vibes. Hardcore vibes. Hardcore vibes. Hardcore vibes. That I run to ends.